Hey guys, welcome back. It's the sports show with no name. We still don't have a name, but that's okay. I've got Ben with me, and as you can see, we've got a very special guest. I'm really, really excited to have Brunswick High School Athletic Director Jim Kovi. Mr. Kovi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you having me. Ben Bales and I go way back. So Ben was a student of mine when from middle school and then in high school here in Brunswick, and we developed a great relationship really through sports. Just talking sports, it was an opportunity for us to kind of press pause on our days. Him as a student, me as an administrator, and now he's in his 20s, and we won't say how old I am. But we've maintained a friendship. We continue to talk sports. I've never met anybody that talks more sports than Ben. And in fact, he's around campus here with us all the time. So he asked me to come on. He sent me quite a few of your guys' shows. I think you do a tremendous job, Chad. And, Ben's my guy, so I'm happy to jump on and just talk some sports with you guys for a little bit.
Well, thank you for saying that. Yeah, Ben is really easy to get along with and really easy to talk to. We send each other all kinds of sports stuff. Man, that's all we talk about. But yeah, you're right. And we're very glad to have you. Like I said, I couldn't appreciate you being on the show more today. It's great to have a guest. Sometimes it's nice to talk to someone other than ourselves. Yeah. I want to start with so at Brunswick. All right, how long have you been the athletic director there? You've been the athletic director since when now?
So I just finished my second year.
Okay.
The years never really start and stop here. So gradual transition into year 3. I've been in the district for 12 years now, 13, going on 13 years. I've worked in administration for 7, going on 8, and going into my 3rd year as the athletic director.
That's very cool. So yeah, you're firmly entrenched in the community. You guys just made a pretty big hire. You hired a brand new football coach, newly 27 now. I know that. You just had a birthday last week. Kole Carter, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Tell us first a little bit about Coach Carter, which is really fun to say. And, if you grew up when we grew up, I guess that's a fun thing to talk about. Yeah, tell us about Coach Carter and just, whatever else you want to get into. I know there's some probably really exciting times right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a little biased, obviously, because I was kind of led the charge on the hiring process. And first, I want to say Mark Pinzoni, who was the head football coach here for 7 years, was also on staff during some of the best years Brunswick football ever saw. Mark was fantastic, and I think the world of Mark. I think he did a tremendous job. Mark was kind of ready to slow some things down. Being a head varsity football coach at a program like Brunswick, the size of this program, really anywhere, it doesn't matter the size. Being a head varsity high school football coach is incredibly demanding, and can be exhausting at times. So Mark and I had a conversation, and when he kind of decided that he might be ready to slow things down a little bit, I knew we were going to get ready to engage in a process that was going to be difficult, time-consuming, scrutinized, and pretty big hire in a community like ours. So we built a process. We built a process in terms of our screening interviews, what we were looking for. We solicited as much feedback as we could from players to coaches to community members to alumni, to teachers and administrators in the district, right? Your athletic programs represent your community and your district as a whole. And so I thought it was important to get as much input as we could to drive our decision making. And once we kind of established the criteria and the characteristics of what we were looking for, then we dug in. So we had 31, I believe, applicants. I think we brought in 18. We intended on narrowing that down through screening interviews to just a couple, but we couldn't because we had some fantastic applicants. And so we put together a committee that included other head coaches, incredibly successful head coaches here in the Brunswick Athletic Department, our head trainer, our strength and conditioning coach, a number of different people, our director of personnel. And we brought everybody in and had them kind of sit in front of a committee like that, which is no easy task. And, at the end of the process, Kole Carter just thoroughly impressed everyone in the room, and not just me. He's a guy that, him and I are going to get along if we met at Home Depot. Right. But he was able to. We had some incredible coaches, tenured coaches, that have done some amazing things for Brunswick athletics on that committee, and it was pretty much unanimous at the end of this process that this was a young man that we felt could lead our football program moving forward.
Yeah, I can't even imagine where that process starts. Like you said, it sounds, well, first of all, thorough, which is good. You got to be thorough, but it sounds exhausting. I mean, obviously you've got applicants there, and I'm not surprised. 30, I mean, it's a very attractive program. I'm not surprised you had a lot to go through there. But yeah, to start to even know, where to sift that down, that sounds exhausting to me.
Yeah.
I need a nap just thinking about it.
Yeah, and I don't even think I answered your question completely. So let me, Coach Carter, tell you a little bit about Coach Carter. Coach Carter, sure. as a person, as a man, he's detail oriented. He's driven. He's the word we like to use around here a lot is he's a grinder. Right. We've got Joe Mackey, who's one of the best high school basketball coaches in the state of Ohio. Right. Joe's a personal friend of mine. We use that word all the time. Right. He's you're a grinder. You got to grind. Right. Yep. Coach Carter fits
not easy.
He's a grinder. He's a relationship builder. He's detail oriented. He has high expectations. There's accountability that comes along with what he brings with him. Sure. Discipline. He's, he kind of checks a lot of those boxes that you need to be able to check when you want to have a successful high school athletic program. So he's a tremendous human being. He's assimilated himself real quick into our community. Here into the high school. We were fortunate enough that we were able to get him up at the end of January, which is almost unheard of. They think so highly of him back home where he came from in Galea, Ohio, that they were willing to let him out of his contract early because they want to see him be successful. So we got him at the end of January. He was in the weight room by the first week of February. He was in the hallways meeting the kids. Knew all of them by name by the end of February, and has just been running with it since.
Yeah, I watched an interview that he did with Ken Carman from Fox 8 from 92.3 The Fan, and I just thought it was pretty impressive. I mean, he talked about coming in and kind of like you said. I mean, just kind of I keep using the word entrench, but entrenching himself in the community first, kind of finding out like what makes the community tick, meeting some of the community leaders, the school leaders, and I thought that was pretty impressive. I mean, a lot of guys. And I think he, mentioned this in the interview. A lot of guys want to come in and make their mark right away on the football program, But I think, like you said, he's a relationship builder. You've got to build those relationships before you come in and start telling people what to do and how to do it, right? Like you can't really just come in and start changing the culture around. You've got to find out, like he said, what works, maybe what doesn't work, what has worked in the past, what may not have worked, or just, maybe it wasn't the best plan, and kind of go with a conglomerate of that. And I think I want to say, I don't know, he seems willing to self-assess, right, and make those necessary changes. And I think that's another thing you really want in a football coach, because you make a lot of changes on the fly. I mean, that's an important job, right? It happens quick. And I thought that was really impressive. He just seems very quick on his feet, like you said, very personable, very easy to get along with. One thing I wanted to ask you, do you think the fact that he is a little younger, 27, just coming off a college football career, do you think that makes it easier for him to relate to some of the players? I mean, I don't know. I mean, does that change anything at all? Or no?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is much easier to have that relatability factor, right? It wasn't too long ago that he was in the same position that those young men that are taking a knee in front of him in the locker room were in, right? He can speak through experiences. He touched on that a little bit with the interview with Ken, and again, Ken Carman. We called in a favor. Ken was fantastic. Came down here and just did such a tremendous job with the interview, hoping to just kind of bring some attention and highlight the new coach and the program. And anytime we can bring attention to our student athletes and our coaches, those are good things. Those are what we want to do. I didn't think we'd get, Ken Carman to find time in his day to drive down here to Brunswick, but he did. So I can't thank him enough. And we now consider Ken Carman an honorary Brunswick Blue Devil. So, but yeah, I think that relatability factor is really big, right? I don't think it's the end all be all. I think we've seen plenty of head coaches who are older than that, who still possess that relatability factor to their kids. I think it's easier when you're a little bit younger, right? I think at the end of the day, we talk about relatability all the time, right? And to me, that doesn't mean like, hey, we listen to the same music or watch the same movies or grew up the same way. I don't think that has as much to do with it. It can help, absolutely. I think the relatability piece comes from when we're talking about high school athletics. It starts with the idea that the kids know that coach cares, right? That's the first step, right? That coach cares about me, not just my performance on the court, on the field. He knows my name. He's talked to my mom. He knows my sisters in 10th grade and in his health class, whatever it might be, right? He genuinely cares about my interests, those kind of things. And I think that's more important than the age piece, right? But when you have that and you're, 10 years removed from being in the same position that a lot of these kids are in, then I think it makes it even easier to make that connection and build those relationships. And those relationships will carry you a long way.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, sometimes coaches will say, I wouldn't ask you to do anything I didn't do myself. And it's really, it's really relatable when you can go right back and there he is, right? Like you can see that he has done those things that he's asking you to do.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. Ben, do you have any questions for Mr. Kovi? I've been I've been talking too much as I do. You can ask my wife.
I mean, I kind of know just probably about as much as he does. I mean, we talk about Brunswick sports all day, but I mean, like, I think I was just going to say is, I mean, with Kole being 27, we have some of the best coaches in Northeast Ohio in our district. I mean, you have arguably the best basketball coach in the state of Ohio, and Joe Mackey. And I just think I think it helps Kole to have those guys. If he has any questions or any, concerns, he can, ask them like, hey, what would you do in this situation? And it's only going to help him grow as a coach and help our community grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think kind of going back to something you just said a couple of minutes ago, Chad, and please, you don't call me Mr. Kovi, you call me Jim. Everybody calls me Kovi. So from my family to coaches
fair enough.
But kind of going back to something you said a little bit ago about Coach Carter's approach when he came in, it was very apparent to me that he did his research, right? He understands the tradition here at Brunswick and placed a lot of emphasis on that, and not only touched on that through the interview process, but then when he came in, when he was hired as the head coach, he's come in and he's really tried to make sure that he understands that tradition, right? Brunswick football here in this community is a point of pride. And while we always kind of want to do some things our way, he understands that navigating that with the tradition in mind and the history in mind, and some of the great coaches and players that have come through this program over the years. And he's done his homework. He's studied, and we're hopeful to bring back some of those great Brunswick football players to talk to the team as we get a little bit closer to the season and make sure that connection stays strong. Continue to reach out to our alumni that had such an impact on this football program. Because if it wasn't for those guys that came before Coach Carter and the kids that are in the program now, this wouldn't be as exciting, and it wouldn't be as appealing of a job.
Yeah. I think you've always got to respect who came before, right?
Mm-hmm. I do have a question. I mean, obviously, I probably know the answer to this, but just for the people that are watching that don't, with him being the new head coach, what would be a successful season for you? Looking at this as a new hire, like what record, what standpoint, like what would be a good hire for you? Like what kind of record?
Man, Ben's shooting bullets here, right?
Oh, man,
this thing's not being recorded, is it?
We can edit this out.
All right. I think I don't want to put a number on wins and losses. Again, we play in the Greater Cleveland Conference, which is a very competitive conference when it comes to high school football. Our non-conference schedule is not much easier. This year in our non-conference, we're gonna start the season at Berea. We'll play Olmsted Falls at home. We'll go down the road and play Highland. And my guy, Coach Gibbons down there, Mike's a buddy of mine. He does a tremendous job. That program, I think, was 14-0 at one point last year before they lost in the playoffs. And then we have a conference bye week, week 9. We're going to play Walsh in that conference bye week. And then, all the other games are our conference games. So putting a number on wins and losses is a little bit difficult. It comes to competitiveness, right? Growth. From the last couple of years. And again, Mark and his staff did a tremendous job of working on growing with the individuals that are on the field for us. And we've got quite a few underclassmen that played a lot of football the last 2 years. So I think my hope is we win some more games, right? And I think that's every athletic director and every football coach's hope in Northeast Ohio, except for those guys over at St. Ed's. I think they went undefeated. No, I'm sorry. I think they lost down in Massillon. I think they lost a game down in Massillon this year. But, everybody wants to go undefeated from the start of the season. That's the goal, right? My hope is we win a couple more games. And some of the games that maybe we weren't as competitive as we would hope to be, we want to be competitive in those games. We want to and in those games that were close, that didn't go our way, find a way to win those games. And I think if you can do those things, then at the end of the season, you can look back and say, hey, we made a huge step in the right direction. And we build on that.
For sure. Yeah. Me working every Friday night. I know I want to see us, go out there and be competitive every single week. Like you said, there's nothing better in this community than going to a Friday night football game and seeing some great football being played.
Yeah. That's ingrained. That's all across Ohio, and I think, like you said, I think you just want to see personal growth, development. And you remember that, a head coach is helping, oftentimes, young boys coming into the program and kind of turning them into men and, putting them into a college program, hopefully, or maybe they'll go on to school, whether they play football or not.
Yeah.
So, that aspect too is, I think, very important. As long as you see that, enthusiasm for the program is big.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not to be enthusiastic for a program like Brunswick. I think it's like you said, the story tradition, Division I, Region I. Right in the thick of the middle. It's just like the toughest competition, right? Even the conference, like you said, with Euclid, Medina, Mentor, Strongsville, Shaker Heights, and Cleveland Heights. It's just like the competition never stops.
I think don't quote me on this, but I think 5 or 6 of our regular season opponents last year won multiple playoff games. Some of them were Division II, because we've got a couple of D2 schools on our roster, but there's not a lot of difference between D2 and D1 football.
No.
I want to say 5 or 6 teams on our schedule from last year won multiple playoff games, not just one. When you break it down that way, that and you look at the schedule from that perspective, it's not an easy task, right? No. So we understand I say we. I'm just here in a supportive role in my position. Coach Carter and his staff understands kind of what the schedule looks like and the level of competition that they're going to face every week, and they're taking every day to get prepared and get better and get ready to play.
Like you said, he's a grinder, right? He's a tough guy. So if the team takes on his personality, I think you'll be all right, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I heard you saying this, a couple weeks ago when school was still in. Or at least I think I heard you say, you said he's watched like every game of film of Brunswick the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, talk about coming in and wanting to know the tradition and, like you said, being a grinder. He wants to get this figured out. And that's something that stuck out to me when you said that. He comes in, he's watched every single game from the past 2 years. That's shows you he wants to win.
There's a commitment level there. Yeah. Well, listen, good luck to Coach Carter. I did want to say, listen, if you're watching and you just want to know more information about any of the sports at Brunswick, you can go to bluedevilathletics.org. And do you have anything to do with the website? I was looking at the website, it's amazingly detailed. There's a lot of information there.
Yeah, so I give a lot of credit to John Justice, who's now the athletic director over Berea, who was in this position before me. John is an amazing athletic director and very detail oriented. And John really kind of built some of this. At one point we had our athletic website was one of the top 10 most visited high school athletic websites, I think, in the country. Again, don't quote me on that. This isn't being recorded. So we
won't hold you to anything. Don't worry.
We try to maintain a very high level of consistency with the website. We know that when somebody wants to know something about a schedule or our youth camps, or the first place they're going to go is our athletic website, right? If we can provide that information for them there, that makes everybody's life easier, because if we don't have it there, the next step is they're going to make a phone call, right? And the athletic secretary, Miss Fleming, who, again, shout out to Miss Fleming. Incredible. I couldn't do this job without her, and she's got to answer the phone call. If she doesn't have the information readily available, now you're playing a game of telephone, right? She's got to find me. So if we can, we want to give our community members, our fans, our families, kind of a one-stop shop to find out all the information they need for our schedules, our scores, small stories about things coming up, our youth camps. It's not perfect. I'll tell you, that was one of my biggest learning curves in the first 2 years in a job like this, is making sure that, that piece, because I found out real fast how many people really do get their information from there. So, I appreciate you kind of plugging that website. If anybody's looking for information about Brunswick High School athletics or Brunswick Middle School athletics, that'll be their best resource.
Yeah, people do love their information, and it's 2024. We like it, like yesterday. Everything comes so fast now, So it's great. Again, it's bluedevilathletics.org. If you want to know anything about, just go check it out. There's, I think, ticket information on there for games as well. You can click around there and take a look.
Absolutely.
I want to move on just a little bit here. I want to change gears. We're going to talk about some professional sports. We're staying local. We're going to stay, I guess, regional at least. I don't know about local, but we got to talk about the Cavs, because look, the draft is coming up in 2 weeks on the 26th, right? They have the 20th pick, right? I don't know. I have a hard time projecting the NBA draft anyway, because there's always international players that I don't know about. Guys pop up and it's like, I've heard of this guy for 3 days and he's going to be the 6th pick in the draft. And that's okay. That's fine. Maybe I don't follow basketball as closely as other people. It's really hard to project that. But I guess what I want to ask you, Jim, just first, have you been paying attention at all to the Cavs head coach search? Have you been, speaking of coaching searches? I mean,
that one has a little bit more riding on it than the one that I just went through did, right?
Well, they're both important though. I mean, they're both pretty important.
Yeah. I have to a point. I know the assistant coach. His name escapes me right now. They just had him in for an interview yesterday. He was in town for an interview yesterday. He's a hot name. He had already interviewed with the Lakers. Is it that guy from Golden State?
Borrego?
Yes.
James Borrego? Yeah.
He's a hot name. Kenny Atkinson, I think, is the other one that keeps coming up.
Those are the two guys right now, apparently, according to Brian Windhorst. Anyway, those are the two guys. So
I heard something interesting on sports talk radio when I'm not working, and even when I am at work and not engaged in meetings, I usually have a headphone in my ear. I'm listening to sports talks. Probably the same thing you two guys are doing all day long. And somebody brought up the idea of Luke Walton. And I think he was over on 92.3 The Fan. I forget what show, but made some really good points for Luke Walton. I know Luke Walton has kind of been here and there, and I think he was a head coach for the Lakers, and they let him go at some point. But I forget what year it was. I think it was 2014, 2015. I think it was 2015. I think it was the year the Cavs beat the Warriors in the finals. Luke Walton started as the head coach for the Golden State Warriors because of the I think it was a back issue that Steve Kerr was having, right? They jumped out to the best record in the NBA. I think they won 24 straight to start the season. I think they were like 30-something-9 by the time Steve Kerr came back. So that I found that interesting. I found that really interesting. I know things didn't work out in Los Angeles with him, but you talk about when it comes to professional sports, the leash is so short, right? Like to write a guy off because something maybe didn't work here for this team here. It's they're quick to make changes. It's an entertainment business driven by dollars, right? So if you're not winning, you're not maximizing the revenue that can be generated. And so it's a little bit easier to move on from a coach and see if you can find somebody else that can do a little bit better of a job. I think, those two names that we mentioned, Barengo and Kenny Atkinson, I don't even think Luke Walton's in the conversation. I just thought it was fun to entertain that. But usually there's a dark horse that people aren't being talked about. I'll ask you guys, is there a dark horse name that you've heard outside of those two?
Well, I don't think you can ever really predict what Dan Gilbert's going to do, right? I think Jim Beeline kind of came out of nowhere. I don't know. I mean, you just never really know. I mean, we could have a college coach that, maybe you've heard of, but maybe isn't like a front runner for the job. It's really hard to predict that. Ben, what do you think?
I mean, like I said, the only two I heard saw one other name. He was an assistant for, I think he was an assistant for Mike Brown in Sacramento that they were talking about.
Okay.
But I don't know if he got I don't know if he came down to Cleveland, but I saw
I'm not sure the name, but I think I know. Yeah, I think I saw that too. Yeah, you just never know with Dan Gilbert. You never know with the Cavs. I mean, I was going to talk about their, the draft pick. Even some of their their first picks overall have been, see Anthony Bennett. It comes out of nowhere, and you're like, okay, well, I guess I see what you were thinking, but yeah, you never know. I guess if I had my choice, I don't know, it's tough. I mean, maybe Borrego's the guy because he was with the Spurs as an assistant in 05 and 07. They won titles there. It's interesting though that Borrego and Atkinson, and I said this on a show that I did yesterday, they've both been a part of possibly two of the best systems that we've seen over the last 25, 30 years of basketball with the Warriors and the Spurs at any given time. So, I don't know if the Cavs are looking to get a developmental guy like that can kind of come in but like you said, he can't have a short leash. They've got to give him time, right? You've got to come in, implement a system, and then you've got to get players to fill that system, and then you've got to execute.
Remind me,
easier said than done.
Was Kenny Atkinson the head coach for the Nets when they did the experiment there with KD and Kyrie and I think James Harden? Was it James Harden?
Yeah.
James Harden. Was he the head coach there?
Yeah. They got to the playoffs one time, and they lost to I think Philly in the first round. That was the Ben Simmons Rookie of the Year, 2018, 2019.
Okay.
So yeah, Atkinson was there. He was there for that. Seemed like chemistry was an issue then. Is that a thing now? Is that a thought now? Because I don't know. And I'll ask you about the roster too. Well, while we're talking about the coaches, I don't think we really know what the Cavs are going to do. I would assume they'll do it soon. I would think in the next 4 or 5 days we'll hear something.
I feel like you have to with the draft coming up in a couple weeks.
Well, guys are going to be gone, right? You can't wait forever. But I want to ask you, Jim. I've asked Ben this before, and I think we disagree to a certain point on the roster. I'm not sure guys like Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell can really survive together, and I kind of feel like Jarrett Allen. It's not his fault, but I feel like he holds back Evan Mobley's development just a little bit. And it's kind of weird. It's kind of clunky with those guys on the floor together. I mean, do you see any of that when you watch this team, or am I completely wrong? I could be wrong.
Yeah, no. So I love Darius Garland. I've always been a big fan of point guards, flashy point guards. One of my favorite players ever. Kyrie Irving, right? I got an 8-year-old son who plays basketball, right? And we call him Bubba Chuck, right? That was Allen Iverson's nickname from his grandmother when he was growing up. So I loved Allen Iverson, right? So I'm a little biased towards highly skilled guards that can, put the ball on a string and do some great stuff. Donovan Mitchell clearly is your star, right? Donovan Mitchell is a guy who's kind of at the next level in terms of skill and ability and everything he brings to the table. When you look at the backcourt together, and I hate to say this because I'm always size doesn't matter that much. Well, in the NBA, it's difficult to put a backcourt together that goes what are they 6'4", 6'5", and really highly skilled guys, absolutely. But when you look,
they're very undersized,
when you look at some other backcourts, like we're watching this finals right now, and Derek White and Drew Holiday, and even you can consider Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They're threes, right? But they handle the ball a lot, bring it up the floor. They defend guards a lot. Like those guys are all 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8". So I would in a perfect world, I would love to keep all four because I'm a big fan of those two guys in the backcourt. I don't know if you can. For the bigs, I think the bigs can coexist. I think Evan Mobley, if he continues to develop more of a stretch game offensively, if he can pull guys away from the basket, a little bit more. Jared Allen's not a guy you're going to run a lot of sets through. That's clear. The Cavs hardly ran any sets through him. He got all of his work based on rebounds and cutting to the basket and having
being scrappy.
And guys finding him when he's open. Defensively, having those two on the floor is tremendous, right? So you have one rim protector, and then you have Evan Mobley, who during that short playoff run demonstrated an ability to switch, right? In this Maverick series, if you've watched the Celtics over these finals, but really throughout the whole playoffs, the thing they benefit the most from, and they're not afraid to do, is to switch every screen. Right. So at times you got Al Horford out on Kyrie Irving. Not a good matchup, right? They play tremendous help defense. They rotate really well. They anticipate when Al Horford's not, when Porzingis is on the floor. I mean, they truly switch everything, right?
Yeah.
And Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, to a point defensively, give you a great opportunity to run that similar style of defense, switch all screens, right? Actually, I think it's the guards that hurt a little bit more, because if they get switched on a mismatch, they go get posted up, and now you got to bring some help. Now the ball swings, kicks, and we're giving up open threes. So I would love to keep all four, just because I'm a homer and I like Cavs and I like Darius Garland. I wonder if they are going to move on from one of the guards. I do think they probably keep both bigs and let Evan Mobley continue to evolve his offensive game. If he can stretch the floor, put it on the deck a little bit, create for himself, I think him and Allen can fit all right. He's still only, 21, 22 years old. He's a young man, but I do think they probably move on from one of the guards, and they have to find some wings. They're and there's no shortage of them in the NBA. Like you look at every roster has 2 or 3, 3-and-D guys that can defend and knock down the three, and are 6'7", 6'8", 6'9". And our guys have struggled to do that. I know, some of the fan favorites here are Dean Wade and Sam Merrill, nice players. It's hard. I don't know if they probably good guys that come off the bench, give you some good minutes, right? Knock down some open shots. But if that's a guy, at the start of the game or in the last 4 minutes that, you're really counting on not just to score, but to get defensive stops, I don't know.
Well, you see the size of that rotation, that player rotation, kind of shrink down in the playoffs the last 2 years now for the Cavs. There's a reason for that. And like you said, they are very undersized. And I've been saying, where are the wings? There are plenty of them out there. I mean, it seems like everybody's got one, and the Cavs seem to have a little bit of an aversion to them. Do you remember when the Browns had an aversion to wide receivers, when they just refused to pick or trade or sign a wide receiver? They just didn't want wide receivers for a while.
Yeah.
And I feel like the Cavs are going through that right now with wings, and they're so important. It's like, just a guy that's, like you said, 6'7", 6'8", maybe can handle it in a pinch, but more importantly, can move a little bit without the ball, can shoot some threes, knock down some threes, and play some defense on the perimeter. I mean, I think that's so important, and they just don't really have that guy.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you guys this. What would be your thoughts on maybe Paul George to Cleveland? Because I've seen that thrown out there.
It's been rumored for years now. I would like to see a player like that. I would love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paul.
He's that 6'7" wing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, who's been there, done that, right? He's a stud. He's proven it's going to come at a high cost. He's not taking any discounts to come here, but Paul George is a tremendous basketball player. What do you have to give up to get him? I have no idea what his contract looks like over there with the Clippers.
I'm not sure either.
You put him in the backcourt with Donovan Mitchell, and if that's your 2, and you can still find another like that. Again, watching the game last night, and he struggled this series. But PJ Washington for the Dallas Mavericks, that guy's been outstanding during their whole run.
Yeah, he has.
And he's got the length, and he can shoot the three, and he can defend. Pretty much all positions. There's plenty of guys and they made that acquisition from Charlotte halfway through the season, and it helped kind of get them to the finals here. I think he was the 3rd leading scorer in their playoff run behind Luka and Kyrie so far. So
sometimes that's all you need is just that one. I mean, he might not be a huge piece, but you just need that little piece that, kind of takes you over the edge. And that's kind of what he's done for him and Gafford both. I mean, they got Gafford from the Wizards and been 2 of their best players in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's just it's that Swiss Army knife kind of a guy, right? The guy that fits in anywhere and does any job. And it's like in a pinch, you can ask him to do this for a little bit. He may not be the main, I don't know, option for that thing, but he can, they can handle it. Man, if the Cavs could find a guy like that, I think they could turn a corner. I mean, they seemed like, I don't want to say they confused the Celtics, but I mean, the Celtics kind of sometimes looked a little bit lost in that series. And I think if Mitchell were healthy, it could have been a completely different series, but we'll never know. I don't know. I mean, it's all projection. So yeah, I don't know. I think just to kind of wrap up on the Cavs, I think we'll hear something. I don't think it's going to be like one of these Friday at 4:30 things. Like, they're going to want to like bask in this announcement, hopefully. Unless it is a guy out of complete right field with Dan Gil, a friend of Dan Gilbert's in the mortgage industry or something that, was a good manager. Who knows? Yeah. Just, I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen.
Ted Lasso.
Yeah, right. I don't want to put that out there because that'll happen now. But yeah, like I said, just the draft coming up, you would think you would want to have someone in place there to kind of start getting that rolling.
Yeah.
I want to move on. We're going to just talk about one quick last thing. I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Ben. I guess we can talk about the Steelers if we have to. Man, it gets old. I'm kidding. But just the AFC North in general. I wanted to get, and Ben, I'll let you go first on this one. Let's get the Homer right view from the Steelers fan. Who's going to finish second and third and fourth? Because we know you think the Steelers are going to win the AFC North. That's fine. I don't know about that schedule, but no, I mean, how do you see the AFC North shaking out? I mean, I think it's an interesting division if everyone stays healthy.
See, actually, I don't think the Steelers finish first. That's where that's where
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Well, our whole division has a really, really tough schedule, and like you said, it's all going to come down to who can stay the most healthy. So yeah. I think the order of the AFC North will be which team is. It'll be whatever team's most healthiest, second healthiest, third healthiest, fourth healthiest. That's how it's going to go.
The Ravens got really scary, by the way.
They did.
And so did the Steelers defense, for that matter. I don't know.
I mean, but can you get good quarterback play from Russell Wilson? That's what it all boils down to.
I don't know. Well, what do you do with Justin Fields? What are they going to do with him?
I don't know. I've told people
he's not really going to return kicks, is he? They said he was going to return kicks.
No, you can't. He's too. I feel like he's too valuable, even when he's not playing to return kicks. I mean,
okay.
Kobe, we texted about this as soon as it happened. I mean, we were both kind of shocked that Russell Wilson went to Pittsburgh, and then Justin Fields turns around and goes to Pittsburgh. It's kind of like the Falcons taking two quarterbacks. It's kind of like,
yeah,
what's going on here? Like, why not just go with Justin Fields, who basically has like the same skill set, just younger?
Yeah, I think I understand the motivation for both, right? Like Russell Wilson, it's like, hey, let's bring him in. The guy's been there, done that, Super Bowl winning quarterback, known for his accuracy, his ability to move the pocket and find guys. And the Justin Fields is low cost, high reward, right? That's a young man who's played some tremendous football throughout his life, from high school to college, and even a couple games for the Chicago Bears. These guys make a lot more money than me. They're a lot smarter than me to make these decisions. Justin Fields probably isn't a guy I would have moved on from in Chicago. You continue to beef up that offensive line, provide him weapons, and see what he can become. From the Steelers' perspective, I think it's a pretty good move, right? We'll bring both these guys in. They're both on short-term contracts, if I'm right. You correct me if I'm wrong, Ben. They're both on short-term contracts. You bring a guy in and see what you can do, right? Can one of them continue to be the guy in Russell Wilson? Or if he's not, do we have I'm good. And if he's not, can Justin Fields can you capture something there that the Bears couldn't, that maybe still be there?
Yeah. And you were right. The Steelers declined Justin Fields' fifth-year player option because it's nearing $30 million, and they want to try and sign him to a cheaper long-term deal. Kind of like their thought process with Najee Harris is decline the fifth-year option, try to sign him to a cheaper long-term deal. But
Fields isn't going to love that, but unfortunately, he doesn't have a ton of leverage there. I mean, just with the way it went in Chicago, I thought he showed flashes, but it just, it's
kind of like Kobe said. I mean, if you look at Cincinnati, everybody thought they were, stupid taking Jamar Chase. But then over the years, they've started to beef up their offensive line, and it's kind of like, okay, like now we see the vision. I mean, you look at Detroit. You get Penei Sewell, you get Jared Goff. I mean, you get Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, even heck, look at the Browns, for example. You have one of the best offensive lines in football, And I mean, heck, you're able to win games with 37-year-old Joe Flacco. Like,
that was unbelievable. That was fun to watch last year. That was unexpected.
Oh no, don't get me wrong. I was still saying, but I had a blast watching Joe Flacco go out there and win football games. Like that was fun to watch.
Yeah,
right. The wheels came off, but that you expected that to happen at some point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
But going back to the Steelers' schedule, I mean, the last 8 weeks of the season are brutal. I mean, you got Kansas City at home, you got Philadelphia on the road, you go Bengals, Browns, Bengals, and you got the Ravens in there somewhere. And it's like, dude,
it doesn't matter where. Yeah, anymore. It doesn't matter.
Dude,
yeah, that's wild.
I mean,
that's really wild. That's a tough stretch, man. Good luck with that, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, Kobe, wanted to ask you, what's your thoughts on the Browns picking up Jameis Winston?
Yeah, I don't hate it. Right. I do think that's a pretty solid insurance policy. Right. There was a time where this is a couple years ago now, but would he throw 30, 39 touchdowns in a season or something? Right. Like he's had some tremendous seasons. I think he's also led the NFL in interceptions in a season or two. I think you've got a more mature version of Jameis Winston who's accepted his role. If something were to happen to Deshaun Watson, which has happened, there's a guy who you feel a little bit more comfortable running out there than the situation we were in last year. So, and I think that again, it's kind of what Pittsburgh did, but just in a different fashion. I think an argument for the Steelers could be made in terms of who should be the starter, where I don't necessarily think that's the case right now in Cleveland, but it could be, right? Deshaun Watson goes out, doesn't play real well for a couple of games. You have a guy who's won a lot of football games behind him. I think that conversation could ramp up pretty quickly. So I like the Jameis Winston signing from an insurance policy. The end of the day, it's a business, right? So guys are going to go in there and if they're not doing their job, they're going to be replaced. And that's the hard part about sports.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it last year too. I mean, but I still think the heart and soul of that Browns team is your defense. I mean, as long as your defense can stay healthy, I mean, the Browns have a chance to be really, really good, no matter who's at quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, look at you got Myles Garrett, reigning defensive player of the year. I mean, you got MJ Emerson, you got Denzel Ward, you got Grant Delpit. I mean, you got some of the best defensive backs in football.
Yeah, and they did the right thing with the draft. I think they beefed up the offensive and defensive lines. They didn't have a ton of, you're not going to get a bunch of skill players. So I think they did the right thing there. I thought that was a good move.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean,
Hollins were great picks.
Don't they want to move on from Jedrick Wills, or is it that they just don't want to pay him all the money?
Oh, but he started to play a little better last year. I mean, really, he finally looked like he was like, it was like 3 years of like an albatross. I don't understand what happened. He forgot how to block human beings. I don't know what went on there. But I can't judge. I've never played a professional sport. I can't imagine how insanely hard it is. But he had a dip in production, but he showed flashes of looking much better last year. So of course it makes that decision tougher for them now. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm not sure.
Just for a funny question, I'm going to ask both of you. Early Super Bowl predictions with teams we throwing out there.
I'll let Chad go first here.
Oh, I knew you were going to do that.
With you in the crosshairs.
As our guest, are you sure you don't want to take the reins out?
Well, I'm a homer, like I established earlier. Browns all the way, right? This is the year. I say that every year. One year they went 0-16 when I said that. So, I do think in the AFC, Baltimore's got as good as a chance as anybody.
Yeah,
we talk about the quarterback, right? We talk about some of the skill players. I don't know if I am terrified of their receiving core, those kind of things. But I think defensively, those two linebackers in Baltimore defensively are as good as it gets, right? And Roquan Smith. I could watch
good division to have good linebackers in, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I could watch those two guys play football together all the time. Stephon Diggs is gone from the Bills. I don't know if you're able to replace him unless they feel real confident in Gabriel and some of those other guys. So I don't know if the Bills got any better. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, Kansas City's Kansas City.
Yeah.
Right? As long as you got Patrick Mahomes, you're
going to be in the AFC champion. They're going to be in that conference championship game. It seems like
every year. Absolutely. Yeah. I love the story of underdogs, right? Dark horses. So my hope is that if it's not the Browns, right, that we get a story like the Lions last year. That was a lot of fun to watch. It was an easy team to root for. So hopefully if it's I'm tired of Kansas City, only because I'm jealous. And they're really, really good. But I'd like to, to maybe see a story come out of the AFC like the Lions last year from the NFC. So I don't know. Is it the Colts? Does that quarterback get healthy and can Richardson spin that thing around? Probably not. But I do think that the three teams in the AFC North, like, trying not to be a homer, I think the Browns roster top to bottom is as good as any in the NFL. That's secondary.
I would have to agree. I would have to agree.
Like Ben said, that secondary is outstanding when you can go and play what we call cat coverage, right? I got this cat, you got that cat, right? That makes it a lot easier to be able to do things with your defensive front, get creative with some blitz schemes, zone blitz schemes, those kind of things. Offensively, they've got some weapons. I think the Judy signing was a smart one. We'll see what happens with Cooper. I think he's holding out. I don't know. I'm not a sports broadcaster, but I know he wasn't at camp the last couple of days. So the assumption is
he hasn't.
Asking for a couple more dollars, and
supposedly he's looking for somewhere in the neighborhood of $30 million. And I mean, that's AJ Brown money. I don't know. I don't know if I'm paying Amari Cooper that. I don't know. No. I'm not sure.
Based off of last season, but I'm not doing it. I'm doing it in a short term.
Projecting forward, not a 5 or 6 year deal by any means.
No. He's 29. He'll turn 30, I think, this year.
Right, and that's what I was going to wonder about Russell Wilson. Like, what does an extension look like with Russell Wilson? I mean, I don't know.
He said he wants to sign a long-term deal with Pittsburgh. Personally, I don't want it because, like we said, I think the Bears gave up.
Like, what's he gonna? I don't understand.
I think it could be kind of like situations we've seen in the past. You signed Russell Wilson this year, you signed to a long-term deal next year, you signed Justin Fields, and you kind of groom Fields into being the starter going to the next year, and then you kind of just let Russell Wilson kind of just fade off. And
not if he's got a long-term extension. I mean, that's you're gonna have you've got a Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix situation. That you don't want that.
Yeah, but you could, but not even like super long, maybe like a 2-year deal.
Okay.
Like start.
Okay. Put him at almost 40. Isn't he 36 though?
I think so. Yeah.
Isn't he 36? Is that right?
He's on a 1-year veteran minimum this year. So even if you sign him this year, you sign to a 2-year deal, he'll probably start when he's 37. He sits when he's 38. You release him. You don't really give him much money.
Okay.
But will he take it is the question.
Who knows?
That's the
–
no, yeah.
Do you think the Jets get anything done this year? The Jets are like a sneaky team every year. They always it seems like they're going to do something, and then, literally they fell flat. I mean, Aaron Rodgers on the second snap of the year. That was bad.
If Aaron Rodgers plays more than 4 seconds, yes.
One of my favorite memes was that they paid him all that money to carry the flag out. And really funny. I mean, the injuries aren't funny by any means, but that was a funny meme.
Yeah, I love some of their skill players, right? The Wilson from Ohio State, that's a guy right there.
He's incredible.
He's a difference maker. The corner,
Sauce Gardner.
Yeah, that dude is. He's really good. He's a lot of fun to watch play the game of football.
They've got some guys at some spots. That's what I mean. You never know.
Really good roster. Aaron Rodgers is an incredible quarterback. He's walking into the Hall of Fame when he's done.
Yeah.
Can you capture some of that? I think he's in his mid-30s now, almost closer to 40, I think.
He's such an enigma too. He's like personally, I mean, he's just he seems like he'd be somewhat of a challenging personality and like a kind of a good way, to have around. He's just a different guy. And
did you hear the report about him missing OTAs in training camp?
That's what I was getting at, because he just wants to be away from football.
Yeah, it's like,
okay,
that's your job, but okay.
Yeah, weird, right? And you've been away from football, by the way, since 4 seconds into the season last year, but that's all right.
Mm-hmm. That's poor leadership.
Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, they also got Hassan Reddick too. I mean, if they can get that whole contract situation figured out, I think that beats up your defense. Him, Quinnen Williams. You got some great guys. Like you said, you got some incredible skilled position players on that team. Yeah. I think it all just comes down to coaching and if you can execute and stay healthy.
Well, I've managed to dodge the question. I'm not going to do it anymore since it is technically our show. I can't dodge the question. I got to make a Super Bowl pick, right? AFC. Let me just do conference championships. If it's not the Browns, we want it to be the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Ben. I think maybe you're looking at like a Chiefs, possibly Texans matchup.
Okay.
Maybe.
Ooh, okay.
Let's see what kind of step CJ Stroud makes. He looked phenomenal last year.
He did. He looked incredible.
D'Amico Ryans is unbelievable as a head coach. They got better, by the way. That was frightening last year in the playoffs. The way they ran over the Browns defense was terrifying.
Yeah, that was. I mean, me and Kobe talk about it all the time when when we're hanging out at Brunswick sporting events. I mean, I know how big of a fan he is of CJ Stroud. I mean, dude, like you said, they got better with Stephon Diggs. I mean, that team is look out. They got a great defense.
Yeah,
you got a defensive-minded coach with an incredible offense already. Like that's just setting up for success.
Right.
Like that's, and you're gonna have Stroud for the foreseeable future. If you can just keep getting better, look out.
Right. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't take a step back. I know, it happens to guys in their second year.
Sophomore slump.
And you can't keep progressing. I mean, at some point, you're going to kind of plateau off. I mean, it's the NFL, right? Like, guys aren't going to get better their whole career.
Yeah.
Tell Patrick Mahomes that.
Well, yeah, right. Maybe tell Tom Brady that for a long time, right?
Right.
Hey, that's unreal.
Right. Uh-huh.
So, yeah, maybe I'm completely wrong on that one. Maybe I need to make a comeback. I'll be 45 next week. Maybe I need to start.
Warm that arm up.
There you go. That's it, right? Freshly fixed from surgery about 7 years ago. Well, that's about it. I was going to ask you guys too, just real quick, just to get into the Browns. Do you guys expect anything from Nick Chubb this year or no?
I don't. I think I'm hoping I'm wrong. That's a.
So is that it for him here? Do you think? I mean,
I think he'll get back on the field. I don't know. We've been spoiled with one of the best running backs in the NFL.
One of the best people. I mean,
yes,
my gosh,
to recapture that, I think after an injury like that, his second one, I think to the same knee, if I'm not mistaken. That's devastating. If he puts the work in, right? Like he's a guy, and I don't know from firsthand, but if you follow any sports information around here, like that's a guy who kind of works quietly, goes about his business, has every expectation of coming back and being great. But there's only so much that like does he lose a twitch? Does he lose a step? And again, in the NFL, like it is. I mean, it's
the difference.
Yeah, that tenth of a second, 0.2 of a second is the difference on a lot of plays, on a lot of snaps. And so I hope I'm wrong. If I had to bet, which I wouldn't on this at least, I would say probably not, at least not in the form that we're used to seeing in Nick Chubb. But I hope that I'm 100% wrong and that guy finds a way to do it.
It'd be great. And listen, even if it's somewhere else for the rest of his career, I'm not mad at him. I just want to see him back on the field.
Yeah.
Like I don't know firsthand, but from what I understand, there couldn't be a better guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a little advice too, if you're going to bet, get an interpreter. That's what I hear works really well. Any troubles. But yeah, I think that's it today. I think we're going to wrap it up again. Guys, please go visit bluedevilathletics.org. Go check out Brunswick High School. Go check out Coach Carter. Go check out my man, Jim Kovi, please. The whole athletic department. Again, Brunswick's such a storied school. It's one of the schools I actually knew about before I even moved up in this area. Always heard of Brunswick. I followed, I played college baseball. I played, a little bit of independent ball. I've always followed high school sports really closely. I've always known about Brunswick. They've always been on my radar. So, yeah, just a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much for taking the time. And we've kept you for almost an hour. I know you're very busy. But again, guys, athletic director Jim Kovi, Brunswick High School. Thank you for being on the show today.
Yeah, I want to thank both of you guys for having me on again. Ben sends me these every time you guys record them. I'm a big fan of Ben Bales, obviously, and want to support him in kind of every avenue that he pursues. Thanks for taking the time, Chad. You do a tremendous job. Obviously gave plenty of love to Coach Carter, and he deserves it. But I'd be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to really all of our coaches here in our athletic department. We've got 27 varsity level athletics here at Brunswick High School. And again, I'm biased, but I truly believe that we've got some of, if not the best coaches, not just from a wins and losses standpoint, but from we place a high emphasis on our student athletes being better because they were a part of our program, right? Having those characteristics that we know will help them be successful moving on. And I think we've got the right people in place, some of the best in the entire state of Ohio, to not only help us compete and win on the field, but to shape and mold the kids that come through our program. So shout out to all of my head coaches here. I appreciate you guys. Thanks for letting me jump on. It was a lot of fun.
Of course. Anytime.
Yeah, and I'll be watching.
You're officially a friend of the show. So anytime you want to come on, you've got pretty much the permanent link. So if we're on, you can sign on anytime. You're always welcome.
Cool.
Always welcome on the show.
And I mean, I before we hop off, maybe going to talk to you about it. Maybe even getting Kole on before every Friday night, maybe like early in the week, previewing each matchup. If he's, I've got to find a time to talk to him about it. But I mean,
I think the best time for that is halftime. By the way, we'll just catch him.
Ben runs into the locker room and he's
Coach Carter. Wait! It's the sports show with no name. That's great.
Yeah, awesome. You guys do a great job. Thanks for having me on. And I'm happy to jump back on another time with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Appreciate it.
Thanks for saying that. Listen, Jim, have a great day. Again, appreciate you being on. And Ben, always a pleasure talking with you, buddy.
Of course.
We'll see you next time, guys.
See ya.